Well, everybody, we're going to make a quick little project, an improvement to my new lathe carriage stop. This one is, I really like this design. It's nice and solid, sits in the lathe nice and low profile. But I think I need to put a stop in. Now, a couple different options. People recommend using a cap head screw. I could just screw that in there and I could adjust it in and out as I need and stop the lathe that way. Now, why is this important? Mostly it's important, and this was pointed out to me by a friend. If you get swarth down in between your stop and the carriage, the way that it sits now, if I don't have a stop in here, my carriage will actually butt up against this on the prismatic ways, I believe is what they're called. And if I get swarth in there, that's going to potentially impact where my carriage will stop. That's a problem. So I think what I'm going to do, a couple different options. I could thread this in around this area. I mean, there's different places I can stop the carriage. We'll go over to the lathe and I'll show you. But I think what I'm going to do is not use a cap head screw. I think I'm going to use this stainless steel rod, and I'm going to mount it in this general area, and I'm going to then thread for a set screw, drill and tap for a set screw in order to put this rod, and then I can adjust that back and forth as I need. That should give me plenty of space to stop the lathe. This will be some mill work today, and I think that'll be a good improvement. I can just get that in there, put a set screw in to hold it in place. I think that'll work out really well. This rod is millimeters. It's 4.9 millimeter, which is close to the closest drill bit that's a little oversized is a 13/64. So that's what we're going to use to drill that. And then in the top, I'll find a set screw of the appropriate size to lock that in place. Let's go over to the lathe and we'll get this marked where we want to put this exactly, and we can begin figuring out where we want to get all this set up. So we got you over at the lathe, and what we want to do is figure out exactly where we want to put this thing. This is the lathe carriage stop. It goes in here. Get this out of the way, and that way when I bring the carriage in, I can stop it wherever I need it to go. So let me bring you in closer and we'll take a look exactly what I'm looking at. But I think if you look at the carriage, there's a little U-shaped area, and I want to stop the lathe carriage inside that U area. And you can see over here the U portion that I was talking about. So if we bring this in, I'm thinking I want this to stop, to sit in here, and then this will come in and stop. That'll be plenty of room in order to keep the swarth out between, this is what I was talking about. If I bring this in, that if there was swarth that got stuck in here, it's going to end up potentially affecting where the carriage could stop, and that would be a problem if I'm looking for something that I really need precision on. You can see the idea is to put that in there so it'll rest up against this face here and not over here. I think the best bet is just to kind of center it in this flat portion on the ways. That's going to put us somewhere in this area here. And then we'll transfer that down here. Now, this is a little proud of the top of the carriage, but I'm going to go to the center of this block, and that'll give us plenty of meat to work with. Okay, we want to transfer our marking down the center line of this, make it as square as we can. All right, we've got our drill hole drilled. We have our set screw tapped and threaded, ready to go. Let's do a test fit and then we'll go over to the lathe. So this will go in there like that. This is a large set screw to use, but the reason I did that is I wanted to use one that had the same Allen head, cap head, screw, wrench, so I didn't have to fumble around with multiple different sizes of wrenches. This will go in there, tighten down, and it'll act as my lathe stop. Let's go test this out on the lathe. We have our part modified, ready to go. I'll clean up the marker later with some brake clean. But here is the idea. It's going to go on here. We'll get this mounted in here again. So this can move wherever we need it to go. Instead of using the side of this to use as the lathe carriage stop, which could cause an issue with swarth, we have this rod that we can use to adjust. And then we have our set screw. Get that in there. So now, wherever we want, let's say we want this to stop right there. So we get our set screw, tighten that down. We tighten down our carriage stop as well. And now we have our part turning in here. We'll always be able to stop at the same point. Repeatability. And if we need to make a fine adjustment, just loosen that up, bring it over, tighten it down again, and there we go. So that turned out pretty good. I like that. That's a good upgrade. When we're not using it, we can just slide that over here out of the way, and it shouldn't bother anything that far in. Yeah, that far in I would hit the chuck anyway. There we go. That is an upgraded, improved lathe carriage stop, and something I had planned on doing anyway. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. got this new gauge block that was sent to me, and there's only a little bit of writing on there. Let's see if you can make that out. 5519, I believe. Could be S519. No, 5519 OM1 or CM1. Man, you probably see it better than me. OM1, 0M1. But let's see what the thickness of this thing is, and then we'll do some research. That is 101, not quite 101. 109 thou. I'll be right back. I want to see what this 5519 actually is supposed to be. Let's see what we're looking at. So 104 thou. That's what that looks like to me. A 104 thou. Let's do that again. Lock it in place. $104 thou. So let me pause the video here. Let's find out exactly what that is now that I got a picture of it. And maybe it's supposed to be 104 thou, but I need to find out exactly what this little gauge block is supposed to be. You'd think it would just say 104 thou. Well, everybody, I think I've figured it out. It's very, very, very difficult to see. I don't know if you can pick that up on camera, but that is, I think, 100.5. So 105 tenths. I was reading 104 tenths on the micrometer a little bit ago. I'm still trying to find some information online. See if I can get that in the light. It's right here in the center. If you can see it or just make it out, I think it's 100.5. I'll try to take a picture and put it on there as well. It's really hard to focus. It's hard to see. But we're going to continue on with testing this. I think it's 100.5. So let's mic this again and see what we come up with. Let's continue on. First things first. Let's clean this. Make sure there's no lint. This should close and be 0. Let's make sure we're calibrated. There's 0. Point 0. So it's lining up. So it's pretty calibrated. So this should be 100.5 or 105 tenths. I keep saying 0.5. There's 100. It's so close. It's not the 4 this time. Maybe I had some dirt on it or something before. Of course, it would have read more. Yeah, I think we found it. 100.5 with maybe a 2/10 tolerance. Of course, that says 6. Let's measure it again. Let's just leave that on there. So there's 100.5.4. Maybe there's some different tolerances where this reads. Let's try over here. There, that's 0.5. So I believe that the gauge block is 105 tenths. I keep getting maybe some different variations, different spots on this block. That could either be my technique or just not sure. But yeah, there we go. Well, we found out what it is. That's really super difficult to find or read that marking, but 100.5, and that lines up, or I keep saying that, sorry, 105 tenths. It's lining up, and that seems to be lining up with what I found those markings to be. I guess it'd be like this. There it is, 1005. Right in the middle. I'm not sure what brand it is. I've been looking for these numbers, but it doesn't just come right up. It's difficult to find. There we go. 100.5 or 1005. I'm going to label that on the bag that I put it in. That way I know. And it's fun to just check the micrometer and practice your skills with some of these gauge blocks. And I like using them. I need to use them more often. Hope you enjoyed. Now I have 3 gauge blocks to test different equipment with. So thanks for watching. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue on with this inside micrometer that is off. Maybe it could be calibrated, I don't know, but it's got its problems. Primarily the calibration disc that's supposed to be 5 millimeters is not 5 millimeters. And there was a lot of suggestions on how to figure this out. I don't have a gauge pin set, and if I measure this with my digital calipers, we're at 191 thou and half a tenth or whatever, but 5 tenths. But I think what we're going to do is turn down a piece of steel or rod to about 195 thou, 193 thou, and then I'm going to use sandpaper and a flat disc to try to get to where this disc will just slip on there. And the idea is to make our own gauge pin until we know exactly how this slips on, and then I'll use a mic to mic the pin. In theory, I think it'll work. So we have a 308 thou rod, sacrificial piece here. That's what we're going to work with. think I'm going to use my new carriage stop as well, because we can. So move that over. Tighten this down. Now we don't have to worry about crashing into anything, and when we start and stop, we can kind of always get back to that same point. And we're going to bring this thing down to about 195 thou with the digital calipers. Then we're going to skim a little bit off, and then we'll use some sandpaper until we can get the disc to fit just perfectly. All right, I think we have it. Just fits on there. It's about as good as it's gonna get. Now down here, because there was some flex out here, this is a little loose, but out on the end it is just fits on there. So I'm gonna mic this. This should tell us or give us a pretty good idea of what this disc is. That's the idea anyway. Let's go over to the workbench. All right, we've got this disc here, and I want to check it with my micrometer. Loosen that up. Here is, well, before we do that, here's the disc. This fits in there just so. It's a little loose back here, but we're going to measure out here on the end where it sits. Right there. So let's measure the end. Oops. And we are at 175, 95, and 1/10, or in between. It's 195. Because if that was the 2, it would be right there. So we are 195 according to the micrometer. So 195 puts us, if we do the math, which I've already done, at about 4.95 millimeters. So if we are 4.95 millimeters now, this disc is not 5 millimeters, it's 4.95 millimeters, then when we calibrate this, it should read 4.95. Oops, wrong thing. When we calibrate this, it should read 4.95. So if we bring this in, let's put it at the top. .95, that should not read the 0, which is 5. It should actually be right there. 4.95 is backward. When you read these, they're backwards, right? But it's not. So at the very top, it's 4.95. Well, it's a little over, actually. 4.955 or 51. I guess that would be 4.951. Because every revolution is a half a millimeter. So, yeah, that is not calibrated even. I did go ahead and write it on here as well. I'm re-recording this so I get a better, because the previous recording was not in focus. But if we measure it here at the bottom, at the base, that's reading right at 5, not right at 5, just over 5 millimeters. So what, 5.05 millimeters. So that's not correct. It should be, even if it was the disc, it should be back here. So depending on where you measure it. So obviously the ends of this thing are flared out. So I can't, it's not very usable. But if we measure it back up at the top, it's calibrated, well, it's a little off. Regardless, this thing should actually be reading down here if this is 4.95, which is, regardless, we know this isn't 5 millimeter. It's pretty close, but this was a fun experiment to make a little pin gauge. I messed up on the first side. That one is going to be smaller. So that one is 194 and 5/10, which fits right through here too easily. It's not tight. So this end is really what I was after. So that end, pretty spot on there, as close as I'm going to get in this workshop. And then when I measure that, we're at 1.956 or 1.951. If you do the math, that puts us about 4.95 millimeters, really close anyway. So this gauge block at least is a little, I've got at least got a bit more known about it, but regardless, this thing is not calibrated. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. This was a really cool idea. Somebody suggested it in the comments. That was fun to make, just to further measure this device. I think I'll go ahead and just keep that in here with it. And I'll keep playing with this thing. Maybe I'll actually try to calibrate it and just know that the tips of these is going to be the source, not the base. Regardless, these are not something I would recommend that you purchase from Banggood or wherever that's from. Well, everybody, a package arrived today, and I thought we would open it together. This is a unexpected package. I'm not sure what's in here. So let's go ahead and open this up, find out what's in here, and find out if this is something that we should include on a future video. Let's go ahead and open up this box. See what's in here together. Happy Halloween. Nice. Who doesn't like some good chocolates? Who doesn't like a good treat? What else we got here? You got some packaging. Oh, there we go. Look at that. This is a custom-made 5mm gauge block. That's nice. Very nice. Let's take a look at this thing. Beautiful. Knurled. Now I'm going to actually try to calibrate that inside micrometer with this thing. Let's test and see if we got 5mm. I'm sure we do. But this is awesome. This is a great gift from Dave. Awesome. Very cool. Well, we got this surprise. I'm going to close this video out with this final clip, and we're going to actually test this new custom-made 5mm calibration disc that Dave made and sent to me. This was also a gift from Dave when we met up over the summer. I was fortunate enough to be in the area where he lives, and we met up and got to talk to each other, and it was really cool. Just made a great friend through this hobby with Dave. So I know I mentioned Dave quite a bit in the videos, but he's just kind of follows me along, and he helps me out when I need the help, and sometimes if I'm struggling with something, he's like, hey, I'm going to take care of that, or I'm going to help him out. Well, in this case, since the calibration disc in here, which he knew was not accurate, it's 5mm calibration disc. It's not 5mm. We know that. I know this is digital calipers, but that should be closer to 5mm than that. So what we'll do is check out this. Now, I have no doubts that this is pretty accurate to 5mm plus 2/10. So let's check this out. All right, everybody, I'm going to close this particular video out, but I'm going to make sure I end it correctly. I stand corrected. This was a fault of my own for trusting a calibration tool that I thought was accurate. That would be this one. This is my trusty Nyko, and I do think that it's fine to use when I'm using these jaws here. The problem is here. Now, I don't know if I can get you to see, but you can see there's an overlap. And many of you have warned me multiple times, don't trust these. These are guessometers, not calibration instruments. Well, I could probably adjust these screws here and maybe take some of that out, but the problem is it going to mess these jaws up? These are flat together. So I think my problem are these, because I got, this is the 5mm calibration disc that is with this tool, This is the new calibration disc that I was just sent. And I know this one's on, because when Dave does something, he makes sure it's correct. It's 5 millimeters, plus or minus 0.2. And when I measure this, it's the same thing as this calibration disc. So I'll admit when I'm wrong. And again, I'm not endorsing Banggood or anything from Banggood, but this calibration disc is darn close as well. So what I'm thinking now is these calipers are bad. That's frustrating. What that means now is my Mitutoyo purchase of new digital calipers that I was going to do in the future has been bumped up on the list. Perhaps I'll get that for Christmas, but I don't know. Now I don't trust these at all. So now I really want to get a better set of calipers. This is frustrating. Very frustrating. I further went on. Now I think that the front jaws are pretty good. So I still think they're useful, but if we measure this, that's 4.89. 4.87, 4.89. So if we measure this, let's switch over to inches. And we'll measure this right on the end. I mean, that's right there. 1.758589. No. 1.89. 1 or 2. 1.892. 1.892, if we convert this to inches, it should be close to 1.892. It's pretty close. A little bit bigger. 1.892, this is 1.905. So I think these jaws are okay to measure with. I think these are not. And I've been using these, trusting these for a long time. I'm pretty disappointed. So now I cannot trust these jaws here for measuring inside diameters at all. And I guess I apologize to Dave. If you look at this, I know this one's 5 mil, 1.90, and then this is the original 1.91, a thou and a half out. Wow. If it's 5 mil, so this is 5 mil. We know that. So let's test it. And again, so it's getting the top side of those. We're at 5 mil. So as crappy as these things are, they are calibrated to 5 mil. So I stand corrected from the previous video. I have got problems with my instruments. I hope you enjoyed. I am quite happy to have this custom-made calibration disc to go in here, to go with that kind of stuff. I don't have any calibration tools other than a couple gauge blocks. So yeah, disappointed because I now need to work on replacing this thing. This frustrates me. I've been trusting that for a long time. So there you go. Hopefully this helps somebody. If you guys are trusting your digital calipers, I finally will say don't trust these things all that much. Make sure you use your micrometers and other instruments to confirm. This one here, just not, you can see it off. It's off right there. Doesn't fully close. All right, I'm closing it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.